Hello, Sam from Sound on Sound magazine here. I'm at the NAMM show in Anaheim, California. Back on the Antelope booth with Todd Burt. Hey, Todd, how
Hey
you
there,
doing?
how's it going? Yeah,
Great to see you.
yeah, likewise.
Enjoying the show?
Yeah, NAMM is always, it's kind of a mixed bag for me. It's noisy, it's a lot, but I enjoy wandering around, looking at new tech, you know?
Interesting. So there's been a big focus on Atmos,
Yeah.
generally at the show, but
Yeah.
particularly here on the Antelope
Yeah.
stand. And you've had quite a big hand to play in this.
So, yeah, I was lucky enough, I've been a fan of Antelope for a long time, 5 or 6 years, let's say. And when the new Galaxy stuff came out, it was right when I was setting up my studio and kind of considering the ins and outs of getting Atmos going. And it sort of turned into a really organic kind of back and forth with the guys who were all ears about my needs in my studio just to control and monitor Atmos correctly. And we just sort of, through a series of emails and Zoom sessions during the pandemic, we made it happen. So we built everything you would need for full Atmos control into the Galaxy line of converters, which is bass management, delay per speaker, correctional EQ per speaker, and then of course like monitor controlling, volume knob, mute dim, all that kind of stuff. Which sounds like nothing, but is actually pretty difficult and can get really costly. There's some $10,000 options out there from Grace and whoever, just for myself, I wanted to set this up differently and not spend all that money on hardware. Because it seems like a no-brainer. Just do it with software. Why would you not,
Well, if your interface already has the capability to do the calibration, why not? Why should it not do the monitor control as well?
Yeah, and I come from the school of less is always more in audio. So I don't necessarily want 3 devices between my workstation and my face. I would really like to have my interface just handle it,
So what are the features that you consider essential in an Atmos monitor controller?
Well, so just that. So you'd need. I think there's an emerging term called B-line or B. Oh, I forget. I forget now. But meaning the sort of monitor side of Atmos, and that's you need volume control, of course, to turn your whole system up and down. You want to mute and dim those things. But Atmos is kind of a stranger scenario where you need to also do delay compensation per speaker, so your arrival time at the listening position is correct. And then, it's become sort of an arguable point to a degree. People talk about the Dolby curve, which is a fairly simple EQ curve that most people are applying to their playback system for Atmos. And some of us do. Some of us use it. Some of us don't. But there's also a major consideration from speaker to speaker EQ-wise, because we've all for years had we designed our rooms to have sound coming one direction. We've got bass traps, diffusion, all sort of designed for that. Suddenly you've got a speaker coming from every direction, and you just can't account for that with sound panels alone, let's say. So there's going to be some EQ correction just to sort of have a fairly flat response as you pan around the room. So that's important. I suppose that's about it. Delay, EQ, and then bass management. You probably want to. Most of us have relatively small, are using relatively small speakers for our heights, maybe even our surrounds. At which point you want to be able to maybe filter off the low end from those sends to your sub to compensate for the smaller speakers. So we built all of that into software, into the Galaxy line, and it works. It's fantastic.
And in terms of the actual hands-on control,
so that's what's exciting this year, I suppose. At NAMM, they're announcing, amongst other things, we've made a little remote control for the Galaxy line. I think it's going to work on the Orion line as well. But it's a little desktop. If you can't get your hands at the interface, if it's not near close enough to your listening position, this is a nice little remote control that will allow you to volume control, mute and dim, and then we've created a kind of a way to create what are in essence software presets, so you can it's a sort of a snapshot, let's say, of what's happening in the Atmos controller. and you can assign those to soft buttons or hard buttons on the controller. And so you could do, if you could, it's up to the user really. You can make an LCR batch, you can make a rears only batch, like however whatever monitoring considerations you want to build, you can create it as a snapshot and then assign it to buttons on the controller. So the nice thing about that, you're not locked into anything. You can work how you want to work because we're all still it's such early days in Atmos. We're all kind of figuring it out. It's the truth.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, does it also support volume presets? Because obviously volume calibration is an aspect of.
So the cool thing about these software presets that we've designed is that you can choose when you save a snapshot, you can choose what attributes of the controller you want to save. So it could simply be a routing change. It could be it could be a whole other set of speakers with different level controls and different equalizer. It's totally user configurable. It's cool.
Oh, amazing.
That's the beauty of software,
Yeah. So do you know how soon this controller is going to be available?
I think it's a matter of months. I think by the summer, the idea, Antelope Audio, it's so hard to keep up with these guys, right? Because they're always innovating. And that's what I love about them. They're one of my favorite audio companies because they're always pushing the bar. And I don't say that just to sound like that, but they really are always pushing. And, and it's evident in this as a perfect example. They've built this controller, but there's already like the next design in the works. They're always outdoing themselves, So this one I think is set to come out in a matter of months. And there's talk of variations to follow.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Todd. Just
Yeah.
before we go, just tell us a little bit about some of your work in Atmos. What have you been doing?
I've done maybe a dozen projects now. Most recently, I did the Atmos Pass on a record by Albert Hammond Jr., who a member of the Strokes, who made a solo record this year. It's fantastic. But I did the Atmos. That's the most recent Atmos project. I engineered a record years ago for Fits and the Tantrums. Their I guess second record called More Than Just a Dream. I did the Atmos Pass on that recently. And it's been kind of a lot of that, of like kind of going back to previous clients and maybe resurrecting a record that was successful years ago or whatever. That's kind of, there's a bunch of ways that we're all trying to figure out what's worth doing initial passes of Atmos on. So I don't know. What else? I've done quite a few singles, some catalog singles here and there. But those two LPs, I guess, are the most current. They're the most recent.
I know you're excited about it as a format.
I'm very excited about it. Yeah. I got excited about 5.1 back in the day, and then the SACD days, which we all probably remember. But this feels different, this feels like a deeper integration somehow. And because the Atmos technology itself can scale so many ways, we're not really locked into anything, whether it's VR coming soon or some type of neural link, I don't know. It can all work. Or a pair of headphones, whatever it is, we can, the technology will scale for that. So I think it makes a lot of sense to be moving. There's no doubt we want to be moving into surround, I don't think. I think we've always wanted to do that as an industry. And this feels like the right tool to me because it's so kind of manipulatable down the road. Kind of future-proof. So, fingers crossed. I just love surround audio, And I mix I've spent years doing a lot of underscore mixing in 7.1. So, the move to Atmos wasn't really much of a move. I just hung some height speakers, and now I get to work on records and underscores too, which is great,
Cool. Nice work if you can get it. Fantastic. Thanks so much, Todd. Glad to meet you.
Okay. All right. Yeah.